All right, guys, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hope you're having a beautiful one. It is an awesome night here. We're doing another P Dot podcast. It's been like a year since we did our last one. We had one with Ryan Hutzel, which was a fun one. But today's an exciting one because we're kind of doing a recap of some trips. Emphasis on Alaska, and then potentially get into some stuff with Jared's Vegas trip as well, because he just got back off a trip as well. And so the Price boys are doing their part to increase our carbon footprint. I've said it before, I'll say it again. We like to fly around the world and have some fun. So here we go. Alaska is a trip that I have essentially wanted to do my entire life. Probably for the past 10 to 15 years, we've been thinking about it and dreaming about it. And then about 2 or 3 years ago, we finally said, hey, let's make this a reality. And so we finally were like, let's start saving. Let's start looking at prices. Let's start planning, doing all the fun stuff for it. And we finally were able to book some plane tickets, start looking into fishing charters, guided trips there, and we officially, made plans about 18 months ago. And here we are now. We're like 2 months past our trip, and I got to tell you, Alaska was the best trip of my life. So I figure we just kind of go day by day. I'll tell you the story of how it went down and things like that. So
Well, I guess like the first thing I want to ask is like you talk about like a list trip. Like, is this one of the top trips that you have wanted to do?
in
And
the
like
United
how?
States, yeah, for sure, it's number one in the U.S., but there's definitely other ones. Bucket list trips. I need to go to Brazil, catch some peacock bass. Newly added like Greenland or northern Canada, maybe for some Arctic char. But we'll see what happens. Those are kind of the top ones right now.
When you talk about like planning though, like the behind the scenes thing, like getting up to that day where you're getting on the plane. I mean, did you have to iron out almost every single detail before, or like were you guys planning this stuff like a year in advance, or you been making notes in your bucket
Yeah.
list book?
So we have I don't want to say it's a bucket list book, but planning this trip was crazy. So 18 months ago or whatever it was when we started planning, we literally did everything. So you go through, you have to book your Airbnbs, you have to book your fishing charters because they book up, and so the farther out you book, obviously you're going to get the day you want if you're booking over a year in advance, but it does come with some risks. So before we left, we were like, hey, let's check into some of those things, and unfortunately one of our Airbnbs did get canceled mid like 2 months out. And so we were scrambling to find a new Airbnb. Luckily, it's not that hard to find Airbnbs. There's so many of them anymore that it's pretty easy to find them. So we just quickly rebooked. But the thing that was scary was we paid $1,000 for one of our fishing trips and then called 2 weeks before we left just to verify. And the guy's like, yeah, I have no idea who you are. You didn't pay. And I'm like,
But you already paid.
yeah, $975.
Did you have a receipt?
Um, no, but it's a
Well, how was
credit
it
through the
track,
credit
how was
card.
it trackability? How do you track that? Come on now. Everybody
So
gets receipts for everything nowadays. Come on.
it's yeah, I get it. It's the problem is it's not like going to Walmart and buying, fishing charter. There is no fishing charter Walmart, so it's all through these like podunk hillbilly operations. I mean, they're good fishermen, but their
Is some
business
dude
model is
is some dude in a hut overseas
the
with this
paper receipts.
a landline answering, "Oh yes, I will book your trip," and then he scams you for $1,000.
Probably. Luckily, it's an official guy, but the problem is just they don't have an official receipt system. So we just went through the credit card company, figured out, and he's like, well, I don't have anybody the day you were looking at. So I was like, well, technically you do. It's me. So he got it figured out. He's like, well, I do have that credit card number. You did spend money, but it was last year. And I was like, well, we paid last year so we could go this year and reserve our dates. Lesson learned, a lot of stuff you need to book probably 6, 8, 10 months out. But doing it the whole 16, 18 months out is probably a little bit too much in depth. So I wouldn't book Alaska that far in advance just because it kind of comes with some risk as well. People lose stuff, and that's just what happens. So we got it all booked. We were good to go. And
So like
yeah,
bucket list wise, you guys had an idea of the things you wanted to see, what you wanted to do,
yeah,
and then
for
just
sure.
kind of orchestrated it throughout the time you were going to be there.
Absolutely. But, there's only so much time. We spent 12 days in Alaska, covered probably like 3,000 miles of Alaska, drove all over the place. But even with the 12 days, we still didn't touch a fraction of Alaska. We need to go back. There's more things we want to do. There's jet skiing you can do on the ocean in like dry suits, which was cool. You could do some whale watching, some halibut fishing we weren't able to do. Go look for puffins, birds, do some other national parks you have to fly in. So there's a lot to go still. And I think we'll be back, but I'm not sure when. Alaska's very, very expensive. and it's hard to get there. It is just so far away from Indiana, but so worth it all at the same time.
So walk me through it. So you guys got all your stuff ready to go. You had your 12 days planned out. Did you leave on a flight, like a morning flight? I mean, because there's a huge time change for Alaska.
Yeah, so we left Chicago, which O'Hare International Airport is a dump.
It's the
By the
worst
way.
airport. It is the worst
It is
airport. I do
around
whatever
here,
I
it's
can to
terrible.
not fly out of O'Hare.
It is a big airport, and so there's some convenience to it, but everything else is awful. When we got back, when we landed, it was raining there, like monsooning. We were driving or flying through a thunderstorm. We get out of the plane and into the airport, and the airport is getting more water inside the airport than I think it's actually raining outside. I don't know if I told you that off camera, but I mean, it was so bad. It was just absolutely dumping
So did
water.
you already have your rain suit on then?
I
Take
probably
it out of your
should've.
luggage?
You actually had to weave through the airport around all of the. It wasn't buckets. We're not talking buckets. We're talking like trash bin wheelie carts that are
It's
like
just leaking through the roof?
4 or 5 feet deep, and like, yes, it's just pouring through the roof, holes everywhere, water everywhere. It's like a slip and slide through this airport. It's a dump. So that was an experience all on its own. But
Dude,
yeah,
I do whatever I can to fly out of Indianapolis. We were so spoiled at Indianapolis Airport. That is
Indy
literally
is the best.
it is smooth sailing through TSA,
Yep.
through to the gate. There's only 2 wings that you go to.
Yeah, Indy is the way to go for sure. But yeah, we left pretty early. We got on the plane. The flight was smooth. We had a direct flight there, and then on the way back, we did have a stop in Seattle, which was miserable, but that's a story for another day. Anyways, yeah, we flew out there. We landed in Alaska in Anchorage, which is pretty cool. Just getting
How
out.
long was the flight?
6 hours,
Okay.
a little over 6 maybe. It's a long flight. I mean,
I'm
it's-
guessing you got some good sleep on the plane. You weren't.
yeah,
awake
a
the
solid
whole
10
time?
minutes. The guy behind me that was blowing COVID down my neck. Yeah, that's a story for another day too. But yeah, it was interesting. They told me I couldn't carry my fishing pole on the plane because that was my 3rd personal item, because I had my drone, my fishing pole, and my backpack, so it technically counts as 3. And I told the lady, I was like, this plane's not leaving without the fishing pole. So it made it. We got lucky there. But yeah, 6 hours later, landed in Anchorage, got off the plane, went and got some hamburgers at this like podunk crack joint. Didn't even have a front door or nothing. Just went right through the side of the building into there. And maybe it was because we were starving. I don't know, but it was the best hamburgers in my life. And then, grabbed the car, and within 4 hours, we
What
were
kind of
on the
car did
water
you rent?
fishing. Well, we got a full-size car, but the problem is they ran out of cars. I don't know how a rental car place can run out of cars, so they gave us an upgrade to something. The problem is every time they say, "Oh, we're gonna free upgrade you to something," you're like, "Well, it's not really an upgrade if I'm driving 3,000 miles and now I'm spending another 100, 150, $200 in gas to
Yeah,
drive
that's
a
not an
gas
upgrade.
guzzler around." We got a Toyota RAV4, which is pretty good, but I mean, a car is probably 40, 50 miles a gallon because
Was it
some of those
four-wheel drive?
cars are pretty small. The RAV4 is front wheel or something like that. It was
You
small.
didn't have to have 4-wheel drive vehicle while you were there.
Mostly no. I mean, there were some spots where you could get down into some boat ramps that were a little sketchy, or like some pull-off areas, but most of the stuff's pretty good. We stayed on the pavement for the most part.
Did it have a roof rack on it, like a kayak or something?
I don't think so, no.
Did it bring up Highlander days?
Yeah, I miss the old red Highlander I used to drive 300,000 miles and kind of blew up, so rest in peace to the old red Rocket. But we've moved on now to a Chevy truck, and so far it's good. But yeah, Alaska's pretty cool. Within like 4 hours, we were fishing and catching fish. So as we were driving down the road the first day, we were like looking for all these spots, and there's like these fish pull-off areas so you can do some fish viewing. And everywhere around there it says no fishing, and I'm like, well, that's fine. I won't fish here, but like it's in a creek. I know where the creek's going, so I would just go to the mouth of the creek where it runs into like the main rivers or
Where those signs are actually posted at?
where the signs aren't at. And then
Well, no, I'm
you're-
saying you go to the mouth
Yeah.
of the river, or
Yeah.
the top of the river,
yeah,
to where it feeds into where it says you can't fish here. Well,
Yeah.
if you go a half mile upstream,
yeah,
then you can
you're
fish
good
there.
to go. So you just fish in those spots, away from everybody. You get your own peace and quiet. You take your bear spray. You have some fun. And so when we got there, we were expecting, like, the whole plan of the trip was to do cohos and pink salmon. Pink salmon run on the even years only. I don't know why. It's just one of these things that come into the rivers every other year. So we went on an even year just to try to catch pinks as well. the cohos can be elusive sometimes, and the pinks keep you pretty busy. It's like trying to bass fish around bluegills. The bluegills will keep you busy.
Even yours is when Jared gets to pick out the Christmas tree for the house.
Nice. Nice little fun fact to throw in there. The two of you go back and forth on your trees. That's
we have
nice.
to, man, because I get a small tree, because small trees make your presents look bigger.
And she wants a big tree because it makes them look.
The presents look smaller. Here we go. We got
That's
someone
strange.
driving by.
They're probably like, "What the heck is everybody
Oh, did you even
doing?"
mention we're in the barn today doing the podcast?
Yeah, we're in a barn right now.
We're in the barn
Hope
doing
you're enjoying
the
it.
podcast.
And you see all these signs back here? Not stolen. I work for the state. Not stolen. So, yeah.
Alaska. So,
Back to Alaska.
Back to Alaska. So, first day was kind of just get
Well,
acquainted with the area.
a
You know,
little
grab
bit.
something to eat, get some stuff at Walmart, which you did tell me off camera when you got
Walmart
back.
is expensive.
Walmart's nuts.
Alaska is pricey. Now, I mean, you say this loosely. Everything has to be flown in. It doesn't necessarily have to be flown in, but to drive from, mainland USA through Canada, through Alaska to get there is, I mean, Indiana to Alaska is like 70 to 80 hours or something
How many
of
miles
just
is that?
straight driving. It's a lot. Infinity miles.
You could do it though, but you had that passport, right?
Yep, and it would take forever. So, like a bag of Cheetos, $5 here is $8 there. Milk here is a couple bucks here, and it's a couple more dollars there. Everything is just pretty expensive. So, unless you make a good living or have a good job or something down there or over there,
Up
it's
there.
just not really affordable. So, definitely caters to the tourist. You come, enjoy it for a little bit, spend a little money, and then you want to get out of there and come back to Indiana because the price of living here is cheap. But anyways,
Would you say that it was easier for you guys to do, like, we'll get into a little bit more of the Airbnb thing, but cost-wise and cost savings, did it make more sense to do an Airbnb so that you could make your own meals, that kind of thing, and then not have to spend so much going out? Or did it actually, because the prices at Walmart and stuff were more expensive, was it 6 1 half a dozen, I guess?
probably the Airbnbs are expensive, the hotels are expensive, the lodges are unreal. There's no need to stay in a lodge ever unless you're off grid
So
because
you're kind of limited to what exactly where you can stay and cost-wise, because I got a feeling that everybody either does a hotel or an Airbnb or the lodge. Like, there's no in
if you're
between.
staying in Anchorage, I would say hotel, but the amount we drove, we were so far away, it's either lodge or Airbnb, and Airbnb is cheaper and it has different amenities. The lodge is too expensive, but you can get better amenities. Airbnbs are cheaper and you have the option to cook on your own. I don't know. It's preference thing. We were trying to stay off grid, so Airbnb was the best. Get away from people, get away from just society in
Touristy
general.
stuff.
And the nice thing about the Airbnbs is if you do get into a pickle, you've got a place to cook some food. Where, like, one night we stayed out till 10 o'clock on a fishing guided trip, and at 10 o'clock there's nothing open. So there's no place to get food, no place to cook food. So we came back and we had like a ham sandwich or something like that night. So
they say in Alaska there's like a period of time during the summer months where it's daylight all day long. Were you guys in that kind of window where it didn't ever get dark?
It
or there's
got
only
dark.
for
it definitely got dark, but like pitch black was probably only like for like 4 or 5 hours. It was, I mean, you look outside now, it's dark, but you can still see the sun just barely. I mean, just a minuscule amount, like twilight or like dusk or dawn or whatever you want to call it. But
30
it
minutes before shooting.
it kind of had, it kind of had that look to it, but just a hair darker. And
I
then
got
pitch
you.
black for, 4 or 5 hours versus here, you're getting pitch black for 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is.
I got you.
So it's definitely a little different. But
So tell me about the first Airbnb.
hold on,
you
hold on.
stayed
Let's
at.
go back for a second.
Let's go back.
Back to the fishing. So
Fishing.
we're going after cohos and pinks, but in that first spot we got lucky because there were some spawned out sockeyes and some chum salmon in there. So we were able to catch our first salmon just a couple hours after we got off the plane, which was pretty cool. And we weren't planning on catching those, so that's what was pretty awesome about that first spot.
Was that with the fly rod?
We had one on fly, but it ended up breaking off. Most of that was just spinning gear. But a catch is a catch. I'm happy with it. I don't
Do you
care
use the
about
same-
technique. So.
Do you use the same baits that you would here on the fish up there, or do you got to completely change your setup?
Spinners is number one in Alaska if you're using artificials. Second's probably jig fishing, so like a big hair jig, rabbit hair jig, or like deer bucktails or something like that. And then just lots of spinners there. Big, basically a rooster tail here, but just big ones for salmon. We did a little hiking that same first day, Exit Glacier, which is pretty neat. You can't really get to the glacier unless you want to do like miles and miles. And then after that, that's where we went down to Moose Pass for the first day, which we stayed in our first Airbnb. Which, if you were to put your arms out like this in that first Airbnb, I think I had 1 or 2 feet on one side of my arm. So it was probably a 10 by 12, and it's no exaggeration. Like, if you were to drive the car through the front door, you would maybe be able to open one side, like the driver door. The passenger door would not open. So it's only as wide as the car, maybe plus a couple feet. It's
But
so
it had
narrow.
bathroom, shower,
It
all
has,
the amenities,
yep,
all that
it
kind
had
of thing.
power. Everywhere we stayed had power. The problem with this one, though, and really all Airbnbs really in Alaska, is you're lucky if you get 30 to 45 seconds of lukewarm water, if that. Liz usually showered first, which was fine, and then after that, I would jump in, and it was like frozen, solid water. And
So
we're
you're thinking
talking
what,
like
it's
glacier
probably-
runoff.
It's probably instant, like an instant water heater, not like an
There
actual
was-
water heater, like the in-wall instant water heater.
So they had some that they'd say they had a 5-gallon water heater. It's great, but it was never hot. And then other ones that was like instant water
But you
heaters.
think about it,
but
5 gallons don't last very long.
no,
It's you think about how like if
No.
you pour a gallon out, it's gonna take you. You have to take a shower for less than 5 minutes.
five seconds.
5 seconds.
We would soap up and then turn the water off, or turn the water off, soap up, turn the water back on, rinse. And it was still, 45 seconds max of water was
Should have
just
showered together.
shower together, save water, right?
water, dude, and have more warm water.
There you go.
That's what I'm
It-
talking about.
Long story long, it was miserable. But the first one, like the shower and the toilet were right there. The only thing separating was a curtain. So just like everything in the bathroom is just soaking wet. Even though it was only 45 seconds of a shower, it still gets everywhere. It's a mess. But when the Airbnb is only 10 by 12, there's only so much room. It's just it's tight. But
So how's the kitchen, like full kitchen. It had all the
full
supplies
with
and-
air quotes around it because they have microwave, they had an oven, they had a
least they had an
sink,
oven.
but it's very tight quarters, tight everything. There's just no room for.
helping in
anything.
the kitchen. Like you know anything about that?
No, I'm not a good cook. So when you open the front door, it was fine, but when we went to go to bed that night, you have to take the ladder off the wall to put the ladder in front of the loft area so you could go upstairs to the bed, because the bed was on the second level of this little 10 by 12, and it was a bed, and you would have to sit sideways up there or else you'd bang your head. And this is, again, we don't have to go through it for every Airbnb because they were all the same. Every Airbnb was kitchen, bathroom,
No living
dining
room.
room, living room downstairs, and then up top was the loft, and that was it.
Did they
Everyone
con-
sideways
Did
and
they
small.
consider the ladder? It's like when you're ready for bed, you put the ladder in front of the door. Was that a second set of security measures?
I don't think so. They all had a nice lock on it, which was pretty
Oh.
convenient because I wasn't sure if a moose was going to come into
Are there
our
bears
place.
up there?
There's bears and there's moose, but that's one thing about Alaska. Everybody says Alaska is just amazing for the wildlife and stuff, but in all reality, like, you just don't see that much stuff. I think it's
They move
because,
more at night.
well, I think it's just because there is just so much nature, like trees, pine trees, so much untouched ground up there that everything's just hidden. It's not going to be around people. So they've got
Because
endless
they're
acres
smarter
to
than
hide.
that.
Yeah, they're
They're
smart. They're
smarter.
not like our whitetails. You
Run out in
you don't
front of
see anything.
Cars.
Yeah, we ended up seeing 4 different moose, three cows and 1 calf, no bulls, which was depressing. But 3 of them, I think it was 3 that we seen were in Denali, and 1 was on the way up to Denali. So for the Kenai Peninsula, we didn't see anything. They say there's bears, they say there's moose, but we just unfortunately didn't get to see any of that stuff.
Let's talk about like some of the I shouldn't say excursions, but some of the things that you did while you were out there. And obviously you guys did hikes. Obviously you did some fishing. But what are some other things that you did? I know I've seen some pictures of like ice wall climbing, or what'd you call that?
So we did some ice trekking.
There was cleats on them sons of bitches about freaking 4 inches.
They told
That's
us
4
they're like,
inches.
you want to walk with your legs apart. Yeah. You want to walk with your legs apart because even if you just were to accidentally like catch your clothing or your skin, you're going to shred yourself. It's ice spikes. So crampons is what they're called. And they would strap them to your boots. And then we did some ice trekking. So we thought we were just going to, so we flew up onto this glacier and we thought we were just going to be walking around for a little bit. but it came to the fact that once they put these things on, they actually had ropes and all the fun stuff. So we did some, I don't know what you want to call it, some descending of some ice, like 45-degree angles, maybe a little bit more.
Walk
And
down
they would
backward.
walk down backwards. They had us hang over a pit that was like a pit of death. They had us throw a rock in it, and you could just hear it kind of like clink, clink, clink. And then as it went down, you just never heard it hit the bottom. This hole, they had us hanging out over the edge, just looking down into this pit, and there's nothing in there. It just goes to complete darkness. Because the glacier, they said they estimate, 400 to 700 feet deep in some spots, but they said there's other places that they just don't know how deep it is. So,
Has anybody ever died on that?
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
just didn't
Luckily,
tell
I
you?
didn't die though.
They didn't tell you about that, like what the ratio was to
No.
successful trips to
No, but
non-successful?
when you're walking, you would just hear. It's just like walking on a frozen lake. You hear it cracking, but when it's 400, 600, 700 feet deep, whatever it is, sometimes those cracks can open up. Not rapidly. It's not going to swallow you like the movies make it show, but I mean, it can just bust and open up a couple inches at a time pretty quickly, and you could potentially trip or fall in there, and it's crazy, but
No shit.
it was definitely worth doing. The helicopter flight out there, I mean, we paid quite a bit of money to do a helicopter, but the flight out there was only like 3 to 5 minutes, where I was hoping what they were going to do is pick us up in the helicopter, fly us all around the glacier, show us some of the spots up in the mountains, and then bring us back to like a safe place to climb. But instead, they took us right to the helicopter pad, dropped us off, and he left. So that was a little disappointing, because that one too, you could hike up to. It's probably like a 10-mile hike to get to it, but
Well, they probably see it as this is a sightseeing trip. This is us to get you to
yeah,
be on the rock wall. And
yeah, it was an ice climbing trip. It wasn't a sightseeing trip. I was just kind of hoping they'd pair them together, but that was one cool thing we did. Another one was an ATV tour, where another
yeah, I remember
glacier,
that.
but instead of flying to this one, we drove to it, and we weren't able to get onto the glacier, but we were able to get to the face of it, kind of where it was melting right at the river's edge. And it was 30 miles each way in ATVs, which was sweet. Some of them Can-Ams are pretty wicked cool.
They were 4-wheel drive.
4-wheel drive, just absolute monsters. It was insane. You're able to go. I mean, we didn't do this, but I'm sure they go 80 mile an hour up and down the riverbeds. We went the slower route through the woods, so that way we could, have some fun jumping over rocks, going up and down hills, sandbanks, lots and lots of water. We went through a rushing river that was just crazy. It would pick up the back end of your ATV, UTV, and slide it across the river. And
Did those have the like snorkels on them?
no snorkels. They just told us, make sure the water's not going over the hood, and if it's not going over the hood, you should be fine. And so, hey, it's a rental, whatever. That's what they want us to do. Then that's what
It's
I'm
a
gonna
rental,
do.
dude. Heard that before.
Yeah,
Have you actually used that before too?
yeah.
Wicked
Yeah.
sweet.
It was
Wicked
cool.
sweet.
I mean, I'm ready to do some of that stuff again. I don't know if we would do those 2 trips again. There's a lot of fishing that we did that I would like to try to do again. The crazy thing is that the fishing trips, they're so priced all over the place. We paid $1,000 for one trip that the guy rowed us down the river, just paddling down the river. And then you pay $1,500 for a trip that's a guy that takes his boat in the back of a helicopter. We get flown in, dropped off in a remote part of the river, and we fly fish all day. And I'm like, for an extra $500, we can get a helicopter ride into the middle of nowhere and be surrounded by nothing but wilderness and get to do whitewater rafting, trout fishing, salmon fishing. And I'm like, it's just kind of crazy. Some of the prices, they're all over the place. And I mean, you pay for what you get.
Dude, I'm telling you, when it comes to
But-
charters like that, you're not guaranteed to find fish. No matter how much money you pay, no matter how long you're out there, you can always have the opportunity to get skunked.
Yeah.
And we've been in that boat many a times.
So that's what's crazy is the one that we did trout fishing. It was in Cooper's Landing. It was $975. The one they said we didn't pay for or whatever, that they lost our reservation. That $975. And I asked him, I said, how's the fishing been? He's like, it's been fair. And midway through the trip, we catch one I shouldn't even say midway. It was like in the first 20 minutes we got one. He's like, man, that's awesome. Yesterday we only caught one. And I go, in 8-hour trip, you caught one squeaky rainbow trout? Like, oh man, I better buckle
yeah,
up. This could be a long day.
And then he tells you, "Oh no, yeah, we've been doing okay."
I'm
Yeah,
like,
why you
don't
back
even.
out,
If,
bastard.
yeah, it could have been really bad. We ended up doing pretty solid. I mean, it seemed like every trip we did, you
Is
caught
that
him
the
in
one-
the beginning, and then
Is that the one where you met people that were from Purdue?
No, that was a different one. That was a different
I'm
one.
telling you, whenever we go on trips, we end up meeting somebody that is from our area.
It was
Purdue
crazy.
University. It's absolutely nuts.
Crazy. So our very first trip, our first salmon fishing trip, which reminded me to tell you about the fish packaging part of that too. So we go after cohos, this first guided trip, I should say. And you know, it's tough. The guy's like, again, fishing's been fair. He said the day before they caught him in like no time. The day before that, he's like, it was sunny out, sun was shining. It was a really tough bite because in Alaska, the sun does not equal fish. It's, you know, in Indiana, if it's a beautiful day out, you're gonna have a good chance. But the cloudier and kind of nastier there, they just thrive on that for some reason. But yeah, anyways, I thought we paid for a private charter. Apparently not. 2 girls joined us on the trip. It was fine. They were really sweet, good girls, and you know, I didn't notice it. But 3 hours into the trip, the sun finally decided to come up because we got there at 4 a.m. The guide calls us. He says, "Be here at 4 because if you get here at 4:30, the boat dock's going to be full." Great. So once the sun finally came up, I looked at her and she had a Purdue hat on, and I was like, "Whoa, what the heck?" She's like, "Yeah, I went to Purdue," and I'm like, "That's right in my neck of woods. Grew up 30 minutes from there. That's crazy." I think she was physical therapist, something like that. Yeah, really sweet girl, nice people, but like Jared said, Purdue people all over the world, so it's kind of neat.
Yeah, when we were in Yellowstone, it's absolutely nuts. So, was it? No, it was Grand Tetons, I think. And we were at some ice cream shop in the town, and somebody had walked by with a Purdue shirt on, and my wife opened the door and was like, "Oh yeah, boiler up." Come to find out, that dude works with me, and he was an intern, which is absolutely nuts. It was crazy. See somebody on the other side of the
Country.
the other side of the country that we know. You never know who you're going to see, whoever you're going to run into.
Yeah. So back to that fishing trip, kind of crazy though. We landed a couple in the first spot. I mean, we were grinding it out for sure. We went to the second spot and then like just absolutely hammered him after that. Apparently there's been some other people fishing there and he didn't want to barge in, but long story long again, we ended up getting our limit of 2 fish a person. So we had 4 cohos to take home, which is pretty cool. We caught a couple pinks, which traditionally people don't eat, but I was like, hey, I eat catfish and I like catfish, so we'll try them, and catfish are terrible. So we tried pink salmon. They were pretty good, but we took our 4 cohos to a place called Jolly Wally's, and what terrible name, Jolly Wally's, but at the same time, I guess it might be a rememberable name. Yeah. So they vac sucked our cohos, put them in a box, and everybody says when you go to Alaska, like shipping your fish home is expensive, and I was like, it's fine. I'll pay the $100. Just ship it home. It'll be at my doorstep or at my parents' or wherever, and I don't have to deal with it. I'm done with it because, again, this is day 2 of our trip. And I'm like, great. So we'll pay for it. And we did it. And they go, yeah, if you want to ship these home, it's $350 plus the $50 to vacuum seal them and put them in an airline shipper. And I go, you people have lost your mind. Is this a private plane flying back?
$400 to ship?
It was
what
insane.
Are you shipping back? 400 pounds of meat?
14. Well, I think the whole package was like 17 pounds of fish and meat, and so I'm
I would
like,
have dry iced my backpack and just put them in Kroger bags.
Well, here's the thing. So here, listen to this. This story is unbelievable because everything that could go wrong went wrong. So I'm like, well, we're not doing that. So then I'm thinking we'll just take them to the Airbnbs, but I really don't want to do that. So one of ours didn't have a freezer, so that's out. Can't do that. I also don't want to take them around every day because there was a few days it was 60 degrees, so the fish freeze or thaws quickly, so it's going to be up and down temperature. It'd be a nightmare, mushy mess by the time we got back. So long story short, long story long again, I'm like, what can we do with these? So we found out that the airport actually rents freezer space. I'm like, awesome.
Are you shitting me?
So I go, let's call the airport. They want $25 a day to hold the fish. 12-day trip, second day, 10 days, $250. I go, all right, we might as well just ship them home then at that point. We're $250 plus. And then I'm like, well, here's another option. And the other problem with the airline is they go, we only have certain hours, so they're out. So then we called another place in Anchorage, and I said, same thing, $15 a day. But I'm like, well, what are your hours? Because our flight takes off at 8, so we probably need to pick the fish up at 4 or 6 in the morning to be able to get to the airport. Well, we don't open till 10. I go, okay, well, you're out there. And the problem is we're bouncing all over the state of Alaska, so I can't get them the night before because we're going to be 300 miles south.
And you're gonna,
or wherever it is, a couple hundred miles south.
Either travel with them or pick them up the night before or pick them up. Yeah, I know what you mean.
What we ended up doing was getting them from Jolly Wally's, taking them down the road to another place in I don't know. I'm just going to guess 100 miles east of there in Cooper's Landing. Maybe it's 20 miles. I don't know. It felt like 100 miles. We did a lot of driving, but we ended up leaving them there, and it said, I forget, like $1 per pound per day, and then 20 cents per pound per day after 5 days. And I was doing the math, and I'm like, okay, I think it's going to be $125. But then I go $50 to package them, $125 in freezer space, then another $80 because we got to pay Alaskan Airlines to have a third checked bag. And I'm like, good God, no matter what I do, I'm losing. And this place also has goofy hours, so we had to pick them up the night before, cut open the airline thing, put them in our Airbnb freezer. Then I'm like, great, we don't have packing tape. And there's no stores in Cooper's Landing because the only store that was there was closed and is now a river rafting store or something. So just the whole
What the
process
shit,
was a
dude?
nightmare, but it was so fun and stressful. And
Well,
yeah.
how'd you end up doing it then? Tell me how you end up doing it, because you're throwing all those numbers out and stuff, and my mind went to
Well-
that meme of the lady with the triangles and all this
Yeah.
Hopefully you throw that in there on my face.
I don't know how to do that, but we'll just pretend it's there. So I ended up looking at the pricing wrong. Instead of it being like $17 per day, it was $17 total for the first 5 days, and then 20 cents per pound for however
the
many. So it ended up being $25 freezer space, where the other ones were clear cut and dry. It is $15 per day per box. So straight up, that one would have been $150. The airport would have been $250. They told us exactly what it was. So I don't know why, but the small town saved us there. And then the tape issue, we went to the rafting store and was talking to them, and they're like, well, we have a tape gun, you can use it. And I go, but I can't bring it back because we're leaving at 2 a.m. And they're like, that's fine, just leave it on our porch. And I'm like, you guys are awesome.
Freaking trust, dude. That's what I'm talking about.
And it was only like, $30
Did you
tape
actually
machine, but
take
still.
it back, though?
No, we did. We left it on their porch.
Good.
I know I'm a klepto, but not that bad. So we left it for him. And yeah, we got all our fish back. But
Have you eaten any of it yet?
yeah, we had some coho. Actually, one this week and one the past week.
What are you cooking it with? How do you cook a coho? Are you
So-
cooking it similar to like how you like put lemon or lime on a salmon and smoke it, or?
So we're just baking it. That's the easiest way. Put down aluminum foil on the tray so it doesn't stick as bad. Put a little oil on it, put lots of butter on it, and then you just season it with whatever your seasoning is. We've got some fish seasoning, some lemon pepper seasoning, anything like that. And then cut up some lemon and put lemon on top. And
Is
then
it a real like fishy flavor, or is it?
No, it's pretty good. So if you want more fishy flavor, I would say the pink salmon is a little more mushy and a little bit more fishy. It's still a great piece of meat, but
I mean, you like thick pieces, or are they?
the coho's the best, and the coho is like 1.5 to 2 inches thick. We caught big salmon. There's definitely some smaller ones. The ones we got in Washington last year were smaller, but Alaska salmon is no joke. Comes in from the ocean. It's a big, healthy, beautiful fish, and it tastes amazing. That's why it doesn't taste super fishy, is because it's been in the ocean just coming into the river and hasn't started dying off yet from spawning or anything. So it's good stuff.
Hell yeah. Hey, one thing you're missing out on this key piece of this whole trip is you had a little bit of a situation while you were there. And it was foreshadowed,
Yeah.
which you need to go and you need to watch at least the first episode of the trip, because in the first, like, I would say 10 minutes of the video.
Yeah, it was right when we landed in Anchorage.
Right when they landed in Anchorage and they got the rental car, right when they're in the rental car getting ready, I'm pretty sure they're going to get that burger. Ethan says something to Elizabeth, and it foreshadows what happens for the
Yeah.
entire trip.
So she coughed or sneezed or something,
She
and
coughed in it.
I looked at her and I go, COVID.
Just nonchalantly in the video, just jokingly, nonchalantly in the video,
Yeah.
just nothing.
It
And
set
then
it set the tone for the whole trip.
it did set the
So,
tone for the trip.
We did some hiking. We did some fishing on our own. We went to Soldotna. It was like day 2. We got up super early, went coho fishing, caught our limit. That night, I was exhausted, felt like crap, and I go, I feel like crap because we got up at 4 a.m. and worked all day for these fish. Nope. Went to bed, didn't realize the Airbnb had the window open, so I'm just a wreck. Get up the next morning, I'm like dying, go straight to the urgent care. They go, oh, let's test you for COVID. And I said, that's a waste of time. Well, she comes back in, she goes, congratulations, you have COVID. And I said, what? I got 10 more days in Alaska, and
Did
it
you do the
rains every day.
mouth swab, or what
No,
they do?
she
Nose
stuck a
swab?
Q-tip up into my brain cavity.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, and it wasn't really optional, by the way. That cost $125 for that 2-second test. Insurance, and it's a ripoff. Anyways, Yeah, so
We won't get into that. We won't get into the political debate of the COVID thing, but
apparently I have COVID. So now that I've got COVID, like I'm saying, that it's a 12-day trip. It's day 3, I guess now. Day 2, 3, morning of 3, super early. And I'm like, the problem with being sick in Alaska for me is that there's no option to get better. It's cold every day. It rains every day. You're freezing all the time. There's no hot water in the showers. There's no really place to get warm because every Airbnb is 50 degrees. They never have the heat on. Even when you get there and you crank the heat, you're lucky if you can get 65. It's Alaska. It's beautiful. It's a magical place, but at the same time, it comes with its struggles.
you deal with what you got.
I'm sick as a dog, and they prescribed me this.
Ozempic?
No, they probably should have to lose some weight. Paxlovid.
Paxlovid, that's what
That
it
stuff
is.
everybody thinks is just great. Insurance card's not working. I said, I don't care what it costs. Just tell me. I'll just pay for it. She goes, it's $1,700. I said, let me get insurance on the phone quick because I ain't paying no $1,700 for no medicine. They lost their mind with that. So I'm sitting there. We finally get it to go through $400 after insurance. And I'm like, I don't know how any normal person can afford this. I can barely afford it. And it's ridiculous. So the medicine kind of worked. I mean, I got, let's in air quotes again, better in 2 to 3 days. I was functioning. Then the wife gets sick and she's down. But I mean, I think honestly, this was like 3-4 weeks afterwards, I'm still struggling with headaches. I still feel a little bit under the weather. But for the most part, I'm functioning after those 3 days.
So you really think it was COVID, or do you think it was just a head cold?
I don't know. I was pretty sick. I was down and out pretty bad.
Okay.
But we made it through. We were supposed to do listen to this. We were supposed to do a float
I'm
plane.
I'm listening.
Float plane. The morning I ended up going to
With the
urgent care.
tubes on the bottom of the plane
Yep.
and in the river?
I said, if we're going to Alaska, I want to do a float plane. I don't care what we see. We can just fly up and fly right back down. I just want to try it and see if I like it and, have some fun with it. Well, it ended up not working out because of that. They had cancellations, but it wasn't able to work. Nice work. And shortly after that, I was like, well, let me look into, some reviews on it. Maybe it's not as important as I thought. Come to find out, a month before this, they had a plane crash and 3 people died. And so
On the float plane?
on the float plane. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe it wasn't meant to be. Maybe I wasn't supposed to go on this float plane because people are dying at this place. So,
Somebody died on the damn float. How do you do that? They fall out or something? Plane crash?
well, the plane ran out of juice and they drove it straight into a lake head first. Not floats first, head first.
Do you have to have life jackets on a float plane, or do they use like the max that comes down for the air pressure with the slides that come out the side?
I don't
What do
know
they
because
use
I've
for
never
that?
been on one.
Huh. That'd be interesting to know.
But yeah, it didn't work out. COVID was a nightmare because, we like to hike. We was planning on going up to Denali doing some hiking, but Liz was so sick at that point. It was like we did a 2-3 mile baby flat hike. You couldn't get up in the mountains. You couldn't really look for wildlife. Just everything in general. Once you're so sick, we're just grinding it out to try to make it something happen because you pay endless dollars to be here, and so
You want to make the most of it.
we want to make the most of it. We want to have fun.
And nobody
we
wants to be
did.
sick on vacation, man.
We did. It was amazing. But, what was a 10 could have been a 12 out of 10 if we wouldn't have been so sick.
My brother went all the way to Alaska, and all I got was this T-shirt.
Hey, that's pretty good, isn't it?
I like it a lot.
I
think
can
it's
take it
pretty
back.
Cool. No, I think it's pretty cool.
No shirts for
You
Jared.
should see the shirt that I got him and the trip we're going to talk about later.
It has a beaver and a deer or something on it.
It's not beaver.
I misplaced it. I've had it for 2 days and I've already lost
No,
it.
you've had it for like 2.5 weeks, man.
I lost it in my closet. Liz put it up and I don't know where it's at, so I got to find that. But overall, Alaska was a huge win.
and
seen
you would go back again.
Yeah, we seen a caribou in Denali. Just a little fun fact, side note. Big old
Caribou,
horns.
What's a caribou?
If anybody watches this, which I doubt anybody's watching this at this point.
Nobody's gonna
But
watch this.
if for some reason you're watching this and you live in Alaska and you do some big game hunting or maybe even some small game hunting, I really don't care what it is.
What about medium game hunting?
Sure. I want to know if you're willing to help me find a guide, an outfit, or something that can afford to put me on some game. $30,000 for a moose hunt is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not reasonable.
$20,000 for a mountain goat. $13,000 for caribou. Are you people out of your mind? I'll pay for the float plane. I'll pay for the outfitters. But Like, you're not going to make 10 grand off of me to fly me up to get a moose, or 20 grand. I get that it's
That's a lot of
expensive,
money.
but come on, that is insane.
Maybe if we do something like the buy one get one free package.
That'd be
Buy
cool.
one get one free.
He always gets the free stuff.
You're damn right.
We were at Wally Wonker's one of the last days there, and these couple fellers rolled up in this just absolute clapped out Suburban with a caribou on top of it, and I'm like, we are definitely in Alaska now. Just full on caribou, just slapped on.
What, was it like a tarp or something on the roof? They
yeah,
just put
a
on there?
tarp.
Was it a tarp?
It was a tarp, a big blue tarp, no roof racks, nothing, just a
Just
dead
out there to show
a
it
dead
off.
caribou just slapped on this thing.
So just like our Walmart, like right after opening weekend of hunting season,
yeah.
everybody's got the head of the deer hanging right out the bed of the truck, so you can show off how many.
I like
points
when you
it's
go
got.
to the deer butcher place or whatever you want to call it, and these people pull up in like their Chrysler or whatever, and they've got a dead buck in the trunk, and they pop the hood, Jimmy, click, click, and it snaps the hood up, and there's a dead deer
That'd
in
be
the trunk.
Pop
trunk.
the trunk up,
The front,
the front up. Can
whatever, you know.
you imagine that, dude? Seeing a Tesla pull up at the processing
One
plant.
of those nice cars, yeah. Just deer guts everywhere.
That'd be hilarious.
Good stuff.
I remember you put a deer in the back of the Highlander one time.
I think I did it a few times. We put lots of ducks, turkeys.
Deer,
There was a few deer,
geese.
lots of geese, lots of fish.
Lots
It's
of
had a little bit of everything. I miss that thing because I wasn't afraid to just joyride it a little bit.
Dude, it had a flavor on the inside. I'm telling you, this thing. I don't even want to say it's like a stench or a smell, but it was its own unique, like, I don't even want to say flavor.
It's like
It was just like someone had caught 10,000 fish and stored them in there for a little bit, took them out, and then stored not sheep. That'd be cool.
it's like cutting an onion. It's baked into your eyes and your
It
skin
is.
for a week after you finish it.
And for some reason, you just keep cutting that onion. You just keep cutting. You just keep breathing it in, and your eyes are watering.
It's
you
good
don't-
for you.
And you don't know why you keep doing it, but you just keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I liked it. Nobody else liked it. Most of my friends hated riding in that thing because it was a little stinky, but
Wasn't as bad as Spice's truck, though. Damn. He's even got that new rig, and gosh darn, it looks just like his old one now on the inside. A tornado.
it happens.
But
Yeah. Last thing I want to touch on, I think, for Alaska, went up to Fairbanks for a few days. That place is pretty depressing. It is so far off the grid. There's not a lot to do there.
let me ask you this. When you're like, because you talk about like how dark it gets, that kind of thing at night or whatever, when you're driving to places, because there's only probably, because when you think about it, when you look at like, let's say Google or Google Earth or whatever, when you zoom in on places when it's like dark out, you can see kind of like a hue in the sky of the lights from that city. Well, when you're out in these like desolate areas, there's nothing, right? I mean, you can't. Are you taking a flashlight with you to go to your Airbnb? I mean, how are you seeing shit?
There are some. I mean, when you're in Fairbanks or whatever, there's lights, there's traffic lights, there's places around. It's not dark, but when you're off grid,
Have you thought about transferring over to ADOT?
no,
Is it called ADOT over there?
I don't know. It could be AK dot or something. I don't know.
That'd be interesting. I'd like to know
The
that.
roads in Alaska are really interesting. Anytime there's like
Are
a
they
big
shit?
anytime there's some kind of work needs done, it's like a quick fix. They go out there with a truck full of asphalt, they dump it, push it around, start rolling it. There's no straight lines. It's like you
Do
need
they
a
li-
brawl driving down the road. You're just it's crazy.
Do they at least paint lines on the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I shouldn't. It's not everywhere. There's just some spots, and it's the bad spots that you remember. You don't remember all the good stuff you drove on. There's a lot of really nice roads in Alaska, but there's also some really junkers. But going up to Fairbanks was crazy. I mean, it's like 4 or 5 hours, and there's nothing. The only thing we passed was Denali on the way up there, and it is desolate. 30, 45 minutes between each car. Huge cracks in the roads. I mean, you could weed eat the roads. There's so many weeds growing through some of the spots. It was rough. Like,
Start your garden in one.
I'm serious. You could. It was pretty crazy. But yeah, Fairbanks was fun. Oh, I should tell you about the Fairbanks trip up there fishing. So we paid for a 6-hour grayling trip up there to do some grayling fishing, obviously. We get there, we get rigged up. Liz's waders leak, which was great.
Hell yeah, dude. That's always a good time when your waders leak, dude.
So this 6-hour trip of fishing, you would think you get to fish for how long? Go ahead and guess.
For a 6-hour fishing trip,
Yeah.
I would say 5 hours, 59 minutes, Bob.
That's really close. That's really close. You would think for 6-hour trip,
Because it takes it takes 30 seconds to get on the boat, 30 seconds to get off.
pretty much. I'll give it to them. This was, like a float trip, so they got to get the boat set up. You got to get your waders, whatever.
You're fishing out of like floats?
Like an
No, it's an actual boat.
inflatable raft.
Oh, okay, I got you. With a motor on it.
I'm gonna say for a 6-hour trip, and like all reality, we should be fishing for 5 to 5.5 hours. A little bit of time to set up, a little bit of time to tear down. So we get there and we're just messing around. Then we get to the second spot where we're like putting in at because we got the waders at the starting.
Do you even have a
drove to
pole?
the
In,
end.
do you even have a line in the water yet? At this
No,
point?
they get the poles out and they're practicing with them in the parking lot because they're not sure if they're gonna work. One of
That's
the eyes,
always a good sign.
one of the eyes
That's
is busted.
always a good sign.
Another one sounds like it's got a gallon of sand in the reel. It's just grinding everything. And they're like, oh, probably should leave that. No, we'll take it as a backup. I'm like, what are we going to use it for? There's no good here. So we go down river. The river's blown out from the rain. We finally make it to the honey hole. We get to the honey hole and we fish for, I'm going to say 45 minutes max. And then we get out and the trip's done. Come to find
That's
out.
the only fishing you did?
45 minutes, yeah. Maybe an hour, but no more than that. Like absolute max 1 hour, maximum. And we caught fish, so I was pretty happy. But
Sorry, produce plan. I gotta look at my DraftKings.
you're an idiot. You made me lose my train of
I'm
thought.
sorry,
I'm like, what are you doing, you fool?
Freaking! I really need Purdue to win this game.
Go trying.
Yeah, go trying.
So 45 minutes of fishing is kind of sad, but
So it definitely wasn't 5 hours and 59 minutes of
No.
fishing.
no, because come to find out, the fishing trip, it was, and it doesn't say this. It says
The fine print.
they will pick you up from Fairbanks because we were like an hour east of Fairbanks if we needed a ride. And I'm like, okay, well, I would assume that's bonus time. Like it would be an 8-hour trip if that was the case. Or no, the trip was, 6 hours marked down to 4 hours because it's an hour each way. And then, some of the rafting takes time and everything, but like lines in the water, maximum, I'm saying 45 minutes because we just got in. We tried one spot for like 5 minutes, didn't catch anything. He's like, you guys just want to go to the best hole? I'm like,
Why aren't we at
"Yes."
that best hole right now?
Yeah, that's what
That's
I was
what I
thinking.
would have said. Why didn't you say something to him? Why didn't you say, dude, this sucks. Get us somewhere where there's fish.
It felt so bad. There were 2 groups of people there. We had our boat and another group, and the
So
other
they
group.
paired you up on your private fishing charter with someone else again?
Well, there were 4 people in our boat, and there were 5 in the other
That's
one. I think.
bullshit.
So we get down there. I caught like 13 fish, which is pretty good in 45 minutes. That's actually real good. The other boat caught 1 fish total. So between our boat, we probably caught 40 some.
And you had 2 groups on your boat?
Yeah. Between me, Liz, and the one guy that was fishing, the wife of the other group didn't even fish. The wife of the other pair in our boat, so the 4 of us, she only caught 1 fish and was like, I'm done. The guy probably caught 15. I probably caught 13 or so.
And the other boat caught 1.
And they caught 1. The 4 or 5 of them caught 1.
Well, I mean, think about it. So you got about, how many total fish did you catch on that?
Like 40 or 50, and they caught 1.
Yeah, and you were there for 45 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I wouldn't complain about that. I take back what I said about the shit.
Well, that's the thing
shit
is,
charters.
they put us on the. Well, they were paired together. It was the same guy, the same hole, everything. But it just doesn't make any sense. You pay all this money to do a fishing trip, and then you don't fish. And I'm like, what are we doing here? So, anyways, long story long again. I like saying that.
That is a good saying. I do like that. Long story long.
Yeah, but we caught fish. We caught
Dude,
grayling.
I'd rather pay for a charter and catch fish than pay for a charter and not catch shit. Because there's nothing that feels worse than that. You're literally throwing your money away. Might as well put that money on DraftKings.
Well, you're throwing that away too, but
I don't know.
betting on Purdue, what a terrible.
Well, I think I actually, on that
Go
one
trying.
specifically, I bet the spread, so I should be covered.
But good trip. Everything went pretty well. I mean, we caught grayling, we caught trout, we caught lots of salmon. So I will be back to Alaska for sure. I'm hoping maybe in 2 or 3 years we can try to do it again. But
What's the
until
next trip you got teed up here?
then, I leave for Florida in like 4 days.
Right on.
We're gonna try to catch some peacock bass, but after that, I'll probably take a little bit of time off, chill out for a bit.
I got 2 more
Relax.
trips before the end of the year.
All right, let's pause for a second.
Pause for the cause. You need a water, dude. Let me get you a water.
Okay, so that kind of wraps up Alaska. Alaska, like I said, was unbelievable, and I really cannot wait to go back. So, I think we'll shift gears now. We'll
Yeah,
change
'cause
over to Jared's trip. He
I
went to Vegas recently, and what's Nevada, Utah.
so we started out in Vegas, and so I always like to say Vegas is a 2-day town. So we did 2 days in Vegas, 2 days in Utah, 2 days back in Vegas. So technically, I still count that as only 2 days in Vegas because we split it up into two different stints there. But so we flew into Vegas.
The only thing that matters is how much money did you win.
I don't know
This
that
podcast could be 25 seconds.
I don't know the exact amount on that. I do know for a fact though that pretty much all of our meals and everything that we did while we were there was paid for. So I wouldn't say we came out a lot in the negative, but
Okay, all
if
right.
right now I'm gonna put the math thing above your head.
Yeah, the math thing's over my head now. I'm like, okay, so $25 for a meal, $50 here.
Oh no, you don't get a $25 meal in Vegas. I'm telling you, it's about $50 a plate per person every single time.
That is a waste
I'm
of
serious.
money.
It's expensive to be in Vegas. That's why I said Vegas is a 2-day town. You can. I've watched people spend too much money in Vegas.
Well, that's that. Join the club. That's Alaska. Everywhere you go is $50 for fish, $50 for steak or salmon or chicken for all that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, a pizza's $50 in Vegas, man. A freaking sushi
Okay, that's ridiculous.
sushi roll is $45. So you won't believe this though. Listen to this. So when we first got there, you know how like when you go to baggage claim, I normally don't check bags, right? Because we normally fly Spirit or whatever, goes do these hot shot trips, right? I normally don't check any bags. Guess whose bag was the second bag out of the chute when we got to Vegas? Nobody else's bags came. So it was me, Allie, her mom and dad, and me. We all checked our bags in Indianapolis at the exact same time. Get to Vegas. Guess whose bag comes out second to shoot?
I'm assuming yours.
Yours truly.
And then what? You left them all?
Everybody else's bags came out like last. And they all thought, and then Allie, oh my gosh, listen to this. So, you know how like on the airplane now, you can track where your bag's at?
Yeah.
If it's been unloaded or whatever. Allie's mom's had like an error on it.
Nice.
Saying that it didn't even make it. And she was like, don't say anything to Carla. Don't say anything to her. Start freaking out. Well, come to find out, they just forgot to scan it, but it did show up. So that was at least a good thing.
That's a quick way to ruin a trip.
That's a very quick way to ruin a trip. Show up with none of your stuff except what you're wearing.
That's why when I went to Alaska, the only thing I put in my backpack was my GoPros, and I brought my fishing pole. That's it. I don't need clothes.
Just in case you do lose your bags,
I got a pole.
you can still go fishing.
And I can catch dinner.
Wasn't a waste of a trip.
Exactly.
And your billfold.
You got clothes on your, well, it would be pretty miserable without clothes, but it is doable, I suppose.
Definitely doable. So the first two nights we stayed on the Strip, and we stayed at what we called the Link. So when we first booked this trip, actually, so we booked it with the Mirage, and like 2 months before we left for our trip, they announced that they were tearing down the Mirage. Or no, it was probably about 4 months before the trip. They were tearing down the Mirage. Well, we had already had all of our like rooms and stuff booked, and so they just were. We were assuming going to do a refund, but they announced all that stuff on the TV and stuff on news articles and everything. Like, oh, they're going to tear it down or whatever. Like, oh, well, where are we going to stay at? So we ended up getting a refund from there, and we stayed at the Link, and it was a really, really nice hotel right on the Strip. I kind of got a lot of like college kid vibes from it. There was one day we went down to the swimming pool, and the outside of the the outside of where the rooms were at kind of like reminded me of a prison. It was just like concrete like squares, no porch, just concrete squares. And then the pool area, like it was just full of people playing beer pong. It was just like a walk up bar, and the pool was over capacity by probably 25%. And so we just went up and played some cornhole and was like, yeah, this ain't for me, and then we left. But it seemed more like a college area. So we played some slots there, played some games, etc.
And how much did you win?
On what exactly?
I'll get the number sometime.
On what exactly?
Everything.
I don't have a running total for you. I already told you that.
It sounds to me like we had very different trips. I went out to the bush. You went to the concrete jungle.
It was
Way
a concrete jungle.
too many people.
There's a shitload of people at that hotel too. I'm telling you, and I get like, I shouldn't say like anxiety, but I hate being around a bunch of people. And the strip is just busy. When you go into like these, like there's one called like the Caesar Forum. There's just people that are it's all over the place, and it's nuts too because you see, I should say like every side of like the Vegas experience. You see people that are like, we were walking the strip and we would just hop in, play a couple games at one like New York, or hop into Caesars, play a game, Flamingo, whatever. And there's people that are sitting there. And I watched this lady and her husband sit down. It was like a circle of slot machines. The lady sits down, the husband sits down. I watch her put $300 into the machine. And I tell you, I think people watching is just one of the best things to do in Vegas too. But this lady sits down, put $300 in the machine, sat there, tapped through, played, won a little, lost a little, kept playing, and then lost the $300, put another $200 in. This is while I'm still standing there. I mean, I'm talking about I was there for my 10, 15 minutes. Puts another 200, loses that. Husband's in the same boat. She turns around and goes to the machine right next to her where her husband's at with some more money. Then in that exact same flip of the coin, you walk into like where the forums are at, and they have like all these really expensive shops and stuff. Like you got Louis Vuitton, you got, but I don't know what other these name brands are.
Target.
Sure, Target or Palazzi. But I watched this dude walk in. I was like, oh, I'll walk into the Rolex store. I was like, there's a cool motorcycle in there. I'll take a picture, send it to Dad. And I watched this dude walk in there. He had a small little, like, I shouldn't say like duffel bag, but a small little bag. And I watched him pay $14,000 cash for a Rolex after I just watched this lady gamble away her freaking mortgage.
I feel like
three times.
People watching would be the best part.
People watching is the best part. I'm
just
telling
like,
you, hands
wow.
down.
You think about how much I could do with that 500 they just burnt.
Just give it to me.
I could do anything with it, except give it
Put
to
gas
the
in my
casino.
boat, my fishing boat.
Yeah.
And what's funny about it too is I kind of laugh. You talk about like the people watching thing, and it's immediate, dude. Right when you get off the airplane and you're at the airport, there are people there smacking the
I know.
button, pulling the levers, just one after another. I'm telling you, just skips quite a bit ahead. But on our way flying back, I watched a lady and her husband. It was weird too because they flew with us on the same airplane and the same bus to the carport place that we park our car. But she sat down, had $100, put $100 in the machine, got it down to like $50, ended up winning some jackpot thing. I shouldn't say jackpot, but some like prize pack thing where she got up to, I would say like $150. Sat there, kept playing, took that $150 all the way down to zero, got up and walked away from the machine. I'm like, literally, when you win, get out, man. Once you win, walk away. Don't walk away. Don't stay there and keep playing.
I don't do Vegas.
Dude, I think you'd like slot machine. I think you'd be good at slots.
I
think you'd actually probably get a blackjack. I bet you count
let's
cards.
just jump ahead to another good part of your trip. When did you play with Dana White?
Oh, that was toward the end of the trip, yeah.
Okay.
You have to show that picture.
Yeah, I can
If
probably
you
pop that
could
picture
pop that
up.
picture up here. Yeah, so during, this would have been toward the end of the trip. So I'll just go through this. So the last part of the trip, we stayed at the Rio on that. So we did two days in Vegas, 2 days in Zion, and then 2 days back in Vegas. I was playing blackjack with Allie's dad, and I was thinking in my head, I was like, man, it'd be cool if I'd seen Dana White here, or whatever. Well, then I got this idea. I was like, man, my wife can edit photos. I was like, I'm gonna have Allie edit a photo that I just get off the internet of Dana White playing with some people and put my face on it, and I'm gonna send it to Ethan. Well, I text Ethan. I'm like, dude, you ain't gonna believe this, man. I just played blackjack with Dana White.
He didn't. Not even close. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then 2 seconds later, I was like, I bet Dana White doesn't play $5 blackjack. We all know he didn't do that. That's so fake.
So I sent him the picture.
The picture's pretty decent. Your head is a little too large for your body, but it's a solid picture.
It's a solid picture.
If you're not looking close and you don't know any better,
Dude,
you'd probably believe it.
I've showed that picture to probably, I'd say 15 people, and like the first, I would say 30 seconds of them looking at it, like they're believing the story. Like they're totally believing it. Totally believing it. So one thing too that I thought was absolutely hilarious is, so like we talk about the people watching thing. The people that have like these rituals for like lucky spins and stuff, like you see people rubbing the machine, they're doing like the cross, they're doing their own thing, they're like laying on it, praying on it. Dude, these people are nuts, man, when it comes to slot machines. Absolutely nuts. They're rubbing it like it's a genie in a freaking lamp.
That's weird.
It's nuts. I'm going to take you to Vegas one of these times. You're going to like it.
I doubt, unless there's something outdoorsy to do there. Maybe I'll go hang out with Rick Harrison and Chumley.
There you go. You could do that. You could do that. So the Vegas part of it, I would say it was pretty cool. I would say Rio was probably the better place to stay. I'm not really like the big strip guy. I like to just be able to relax and kind of play slots here and there. Shout out Ryan Hutzel giving me the load there on the key slots there on how to play those, win big money. He just doesn't know it. I haven't told him I'm going to be retiring early because how much I won. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to be one of those silent millionaires.
Hopefully I get something better than a sweatshirt this year for Christmas.
I'm going to get him
if
a
you're
hat.
millionaire.
I'm going to get him a hat.
I like that wood duck hat.
There's a nice wood duck hat. So the second part of the trip there that we did is we went to Zion, and so we rented a car and drove to Zion. It was like about 2.5 hour drive from Vegas. And once you get toward like where Zion National Park is, there's a town that's before it. It's called Springdale. It's a Utah of Springdale. And they actually have, it's cool. So where we stayed at was it was called Zion Park Motel. Just a small little, I would say it was like just a 2-bed motel, hotel. I mean,
They rent that by the hour?
I'm sure they could, but we rented it for a day and a half, 2 days technically.
Solid.
And what was nice about it is that town itself actually has a shuttle bus that goes every single day up the strip of the main street of the town, and they'll take you to the park entrance of the national park. And so we just had to jump on a bus right up there, and then once you get to the actual national park itself, there's 9 different stops that you go to till you get to the top. And now they don't allow cars to drive through the road or through like the mountain ranges. You have to actually take these buses. They say on the outside of the buses, they all say this replaces 43 cars or whatever. But one thing they said is you have to take the bus up, and there's a different bus that brings you back. And if they shut the buses off at 8:15 at night, so there is no coming back after. You have to walk. If you're all the way at the top, you have to walk your way back down. There's nothing gonna come to get you.
That would be terrible.
So like the bus driver was telling us when we first went up, like you want to make sure that you're at least on a bus by 6, because you got to think about it. Everybody that's up there is wanting to come back down. There's only so many buses that are coming down.
And they're going to wait until the last second,
and everybody
then
wants to
someone's
wait.
Get screwed. Yeah.
Exactly. So what we did is we rode the bus all the way to stop 9, and then we just kind of took turns on our stops on the way down. There was 1 or 2 stops I think that were closed, but with Allie's leg injury, it was difficult for us to do like some really strenuous hiking stuff.
Was it as busy as everything makes it seem? TikTok makes it look like it's impossible to even find a parking spot.
Well, parking spot you don't have to really worry about because we stayed in Springdale. Some folks, what they do is they don't stay in that local town. What they'll do is they'll drive in, and then there's a spot to park at the entrance to the national park. So I will say if you're doing it, it's definitely worth. I mean, I think it cost us maybe $200 for the night to stay at the motel. But parking wise up there, I wouldn't say that it got super busy. I would say it was steady. You had just a normal amount of people hiking. I wouldn't say that it's just like elbows to assholes on anything.
I wonder if you did the more popular hikes, which you didn't because of her leg, but I wonder how busy those are. Because I definitely want to go there.
I wish Allie came out here for this because she had a way better idea of the hikes what the names of the hikes were that we did. Because we did a few different hikes that weren't, I shouldn't say like super strenuous for her. I don't know the names.
I think there's one called Angel's Landing or something like that.
Angel's Landing. We did that. We did Angel's Landing, I think.
No.
That sounds familiar.
I think that's the one that's like a foot wide and you'll die.
Maybe she talked about it and we didn't do it.
I think we talked about that one because I think that's what it's called. It's pretty intense, and then the Narrows is the one that I think you have to swim through or wade through, I guess. Like there's cliff walls.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. No, we went to at least the beginning mouth of it. I know exactly what you're talking about because you have to rent shoes and then you actually walk through the river. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We have high cliff walls.
Yes, yep. Yeah, so we went all the way up to the mouth of where that actually started. Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there at some point in my life. I don't know when, where, or how. Maybe next year, maybe not. I really don't have anything planned for this year at the moment. Alaska was so expensive and so consuming and exhausting. And, you know, I don't know if you can travel too much because I love it so much, but, you know, just going to and from your house to where you're going is exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back,
I'm
like
telling
I
you,
said,
dude, there's
getting
nothing,
delays
dude,
and,
there's nothing that feels better though when you come back from a trip and you open the door and you walk into your house
and you see your puppy.
and you see
Or
your puppy,
puppies with an S.
puppy, or puppies, or
Oscar, my little kitty.
or kitty. Yep.
Oscar's a grumpy butt.
So yeah, trip wise, so I actually I got 2 trips. I got 2 trips left for this year. Is it 2? Yeah, 2 trips. So I have our anniversary trip,
Too.
which is coming up, to Acadia.
You're going to Maine.
We're going to Maine.
Sweet.
So we're gonna be up in
Just
Maine.
you two?
Yeah, just me and Allie.
Did you already book it?
Yeah, it's already. We got everything.
Where are you staying?
Flights, hotel. She knows all that. I don't know.
Very nice.
We're staying north of Eckert, wherever that's at.
No clue.
I could show it to you on a map. I just don't know what the hell it's called.
No clue.
So it's just right outside Acadia. So we'll be there. We fly out on a Wednesday night, come back on a Tuesday, and then we got Texas. We're going to Texas for that wedding.
Very nice.
So.
Very nice. Well, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, some good trips. Like you said, doing our part for the ozone layer. Is that what you said, or
Increasing our carbon footprint.
increasing our carbon footprint? I wouldn't say we fly as much as Taylor Swift, but damn, us price people, man, we definitely hit it.
Taylor Swift she's got a lot of airline miles
She
on
got a
her
lot.
private jet.
I don't know. I think that we still put a decent amount in there. 'Cause you think about the flights we do to Florida,
We go a lot of places, which is good. It's good for you. Better than saving money. Just I don't
spend it while
money.
you got it, baby.
I don't spend money on other crap. I just fish and hunt and travel. That's about it. So,
Sports
anyways,
gamble.
thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Another P-Dot podcast here. It's been a while. If you like these, let us know. And like I said, if you've got any connections in Alaska, you better hit your boy up because I'd like to go hunting in Alaska at some point in my life.
And
So,
buy one get one free. We'll talk about it.
anyways, we'll talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.
Peace.